Afternoon. We will now call to order the full commission meeting of the Metro Human Relations Commission. We thank you for joining us for today, our new location. We are in the beautiful Special Collections classroom of the main branch of the Nashville Public Library, and very pleased to be able to bring our public work here in this place of knowledge for the purpose of receiving and hopefully sharing knowledge about how we do civic governance, civic engagement together, and do it in a way that continues to further the mission and mandate of the Human Relations Commission. So at this time, without any further ado, I will move into, I guess I need to introduce myself. I'm Phyllis Hildreth. I am the chair of the committee. I am here with Melody Fowler-Green, the executive director, and we will begin to move through our agenda. So having said that, I believe we just have a call to order. And our first item is to welcome our special guests. We are beginning a new series of having civic speakers, members of Metro government, come address the commission to learn a little bit more about their function and ways we can function together. To that end, we have Eric Cole, Chief Resilience Officer from the Office of the Mayor, and his deputy, Ann Harvard, Policy Assistant, also of the Office of the Mayor, and they will be giving a presentation to us on the Resilient Cities movement and Nashville's participation in it. There will be one slight reordering of the agenda to make that work well. So if you see on your agendas, the director's report follows the committee's report. We are actually going to move the director's report to follow the new business. And that being said, we hope that we will get to her report not later than 5:10 so that we may dismiss in a timely manner at 5:30, okay? So with that, the next thing we need to do is confirm a quorum. This is where we get to count heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Whoa. We are a 17-member commission, which means we need to have 50% plus one, and I think we did it so that we are in good shape to continue to conduct business. So with that, our first order of business will be a review and approval of the minutes. Commissioners, you had the minutes emailed to you, and I believe that there's also a copy. Is there a hard copy in your packet?
Behind the agenda.
Behind the agenda. So assuming that you did have an opportunity to review those, we will entertain a motion to adopt. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion, addition, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you. The minutes are approved. Next, we will move to the financial report, and that is located on green in your packet. And who does that?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Our executive director will move us through the financial report.
Yes. As you know, our financial report is informational, and it does not require consensus or a vote. But this is, in fact, I believe, the first report of this fiscal year. Last month, we did not have yet from Metro, from Budget and Finance, a P&L. So at this point, we are only just starting our third month of this fiscal year. We have spent 16% of our budget, 84% remaining. So based on the numbers, we are on target at this pace to be within our budget by the end of the fiscal year. And there are no extraordinary circumstances or extraordinary expenses that have taken place within the fiscal year.
Thank you, Madam Director. Are there any questions or concerns regarding the report? Hearing none, we will take that as informational. Thank you. So our next item, if I can manage my paper, is committee reports. We do have a handful of standing committees in the commission, but much of the work that we have been doing this past summer has truly been the work together, and the presentation that we have is the result of sort of our aggregate committee work. Having said that, we do have the Due Process Committee, the Bylaw Committee, and a couple of others. Are there any reports from the chairs? Or is there any information that any of the committee chairs would like to bring forward at this time? None. Wonderful. You're really helping maximize our time. This is fantastic. Thank you for your cooperation. Then, having said that, we will skip the director's report for this moment and move to new business. The first order of, here it is. So the first order of business concerns a resolution celebrating the life and honoring the memory of Frank True. As you are aware, since we have convened together last, we lost our friend, our colleague, and past chair of this commission, Frank True. And so I have asked the executive director to draft this resolution for your consideration, and I would like to read it in your presence now. Whereas on August 15th, 2017, the Metro Human Relations Commission lost a dear friend and valued member of our Nashville community in the passing of Frank True, and whereas the Metro Human Relations Commission wishes to recognize and honor Frank's life and legacy of public service, and whereas Frank served 2 terms on the Metro Human Relations Commission, appointed first by Mayor Carl Dean and reappointed by Mayor Megan Barry, and whereas Frank served on the commission with distinction for 5 years and led the commission as chair for 2 consecutive terms. Whereas Frank was an avid supporter of the Metro Human Relations Commission, he publicly championed the mission, provided moral support to the staff, encouraged and inspired other members, and represented the commission at events all over the city. And whereas Frank's sense of humor, kindness, energy, and graciousness enriched those fortunate enough to know and work with him, now therefore be it resolved that the Metro Human Relations Commission, 1, on behalf of its members and staff, recognizes the significant contributions of Frank True over the course of his service and mourns his death, and 2, celebrates the memory of our friend Frank True and expresses its heartfelt condolences to the entire True family. We present this resolution for your consideration and ask for a motion for its adoption and passage.
So moved.
Second. Is there discussion or words that any commissioner wishes to offer at this time?
I would like to share a few words about Frank. You know, when I got the email, I was just taken aback, you know, because I just really couldn't believe it. And I first met Frank when we were both selected for My City Academy. And we went through the program. That was the program introduced by the previous mayor, Carl Dean. And we got a chance to learn about the city and how it works and all the different aspects of it. And we just took a liking to each other. And I'm actually here on the commission because of Frank. He recommended me to the mayor. And I don't know if people knew that. He recommended me, and he was there at my confirmation when they confirmed me. He sent me an email beforehand, you know, congratulating me. And, you know, what I've learned from this situation is that we never know what people are going through. You know, it's just amazing that the face of individuals and the people, how they represent themselves in the public and all what they do, behind that, they can be silently suffering, and we don't even know it. So it got me to really think that we need to be able to broach the subject of depression and sadness and not have shame and stigma, because I wondered why, when I found out about this, if he was able to talk to anyone and how difficult it must be. So I said, if a person is in that situation, how can they feel comfortable to broach that subject with their friend or their family? And maybe the best thing we can do is just say, I'm here for you in an unjudgmental way if you ever need to call me or say anything, because it's difficult on both ends. But I wonder if any little thing would have made a difference. So it's just really shocking to know that you see all the outpouring and how much he did, and then to know that he was sad, and alone and felt this way. So it's just something for us to be mindful of and to be compassionate and considerate of what other people are going through. We never know what they're suffering from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would just like to say that Frank and I came on to the commission around the same time, and we suffered through many of the wars together, including resulting happily in the selection and appointment of our current executive director, but not without a lot of professional and personal pain. And we sat right next to each other, and I still have memories of those conversations. And as time grew on and our work together, I was just waiting for the day that one of us would no longer be on the commission so that we could have coffee together. So while I was a little bit irritated with the mayor for appointing him to another position so that he could not be past chair and assist me as my sojourn in the big seat, I also thought, great, now we can have the coffee even sooner. It is to my deep chagrin and sorrow that we never had that cup. So I'm hoping that there is a branch of Starbucks in that other place, and we will get it at that time. So, we all need coffee, even we can eat the sunshine laws. So thank you for your thoughts, your prayers, and your remembrances, for you moving this into resolution. Yes.
In the Jewish tradition, we in the Torah, we describe what a righteous person is like. And one of the things we talk about is that righteous people speak truth from their hearts, and they walk the path of justice on a consistent, almost, it's part of who they are. And that's how I remember Frank.
Thank you. Thank you. So having said that, all in favor of passing this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Our next agenda item actually flows directly from that. Some of that work that we did together was about figuring out how this commission selects a leader, an executive director. And after one failed attempt, we realized that structurally, procedurally, part of our problem was we perhaps weren't exactly clear about what the commission was or why we should do it. There are many of us newbies who were tasked with that work. It sounds wonderful. Human Relations Commission, I want to do that. That sounds great. But what is it? And one of the things that we really came to a joint understanding is that we too are a part of Metro government. We serve at the pleasure of its citizens. We do work that affects the way our citizens, our tax dollars are spent. Our justice is meted out. The way we provide services to each other in a fair and equitable way. And so we asked, so that sounds good too, but how do we know that's true? As we do in government, like what's the legislative authority for the work? And so I'd like to take you to the municipal code, where the work of the Metro Human Relations Commission is set out a little bit. And I'm going to read for you just the mission and objectives, and then a little bit of the power and duties, because I believe that that is the greatest bridge to link the work that Frank did and the presentation that we're about to have. Mission and objectives. The mission of the Human Relations Commission is to protect and promote the personal dignity of all people by protecting and promoting their safety, health, security, peace, and general welfare. And then in section 2.132.070, powers and duties. Listen, we have powers and duties in two areas, human rights and human relations. In the area of human rights, the Commission will have the power and duty, 1, to investigate alleged discriminatory misconduct by employees of the metropolitan government, including but not limited to employees of the police department, fire department, health department, Department of Codes Administration, Public Works, Metropolitan Beer Permit Board, Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, and Department of Water and Sewage Services. 2, to investigate complaints regarding discriminatory practices by contractors working under agreement with metropolitan government. 3, to seek information from persons, agencies, and businesses and hold hearings regarding complaints related to civil and human rights in the General Services District. At the Commission's discretion, testimony may be taken under oath. 4, to investigate bias crimes, hate group activity, and other discriminatory practices. That's 4. 5, to investigate, document, and comment upon systemic patterns and practices of misconduct and make recommendations to the mayor or appropriate supervisor. 6, to act as a conciliator in controversies and disputes involving human relations. Our powers and duties in B, in the area of human relations, the Commission will have the power and duty, 1, to develop and implement educational programs dedicated to the enhancement of human relations. 2, to gather data regarding human relations and discrimination within the city. 3, to hold hearings and convene public forums regarding issues related to civil and human rights in this General Services District. 4, to advise and confer with the mayor and other members of metropolitan government regarding issues under its purview. 5, to recommend, draft, propose, and support legislative action to safeguard people within the General Services District from discrimination. 6, to advise and consult with state and federal agencies regarding laws and policies addressing discrimination and other human relations issues. 7, to cooperate with educational institutions, local and national civil rights organizations, and community groups to study discrimination and foster better human relations. And there's more, but that seems to be the heart of our work, the heart of our mission, and the reason why we have come here today to basically inaugurate the first public information and education session of the Metro Human Relations Commission. Much has happened within our nation, within our state in the last 12 months that have led others of lesser constitution or lesser goodwill to begin to come apart. Nashville has dodged that bullet thus far, but perhaps only barely. And one of the things that may distinguish us is if we understand that the education component, the data collection and data sharing component is just as powerful a sword in the fight for justice and fairness as anything else. And our world is complicated. Our government is complicated. Lord knows there are times we sit around this table and the 17 of us are not quite sure what we do or how it works. And we realized that we needed to educate ourselves. And so we came to the point to say, we see the work that we do. What are other units of Metro government doing? And the ones most closely related to us, how might we do our work together? If we understand their work better, might we be able to execute our mandate? If they come before us and meet and greet and speak with us, might they be able to lean on us as a resource? As we work within our mandate, we don't want any parts that aren't ours. But as we do this that was read in your hearing, how can we support that work? Our inaugural speakers for this session was prompted by a recognition that at the late spring, beginning of the summer, Mayor Berry made a number of changes in her cabinet, in her leadership, to come up with different structures to address some of this work. And one of those is the creation of a resilience office. What is a resilience office? And then she appointed leadership of this resilience office, a chief resilience officer, a CRO, another acronym for us to learn. Well, we don't know from CROs, but we do know Eric Cole. He has been a good and trusted friend, colleague, and public servant from several different chairs in Metro State government for quite a while, known more to you than perhaps than to myself. But we are, I believe, fortunate to know that he has been appointed the Chief Resilience Officer. And so he is here to give us a presentation on that office and then to answer some questions about how, your questions, commissioners, about how you see our work potentially intersecting and how we can go forward. We are going to give you the floor. We are going to conclude this entire segment at 5:10, and so we ask you to apportion your time in any way you feel appropriate. Chief Officer Cole.
Should I go up here, or should I stay here, or what do you
I think
prefer?
as long as you have a mic, because, I'm sorry, we have been directed to
Okay.
ask you to go to the
I always
podium.
listen to our friends at Metro 3.
And if you would, for us, also introduce Ann Havert.
Of course. Thank you all so much for that fantastic introduction and for having myself and then Ann Havert, who is our Deputy Chief Resilience Officer, with you today. I need to take just a minute to say something about my friend Frank, and it was such a beautiful and moving statement and action that you all took. I'm not sure I know of a person that's have encountered a person quite as genuine and just real as Frank was, and it's just, it really dearly miss him. So I know this body meant a lot to him, and you all did a lot of great work together. So we want to talk to you a little bit about resilience and what that context means and what that kind of lens is going forward. And it's a question I answer all the time right now. And I have had a series of jobs that have not been easily understood by my friends and family and grandmother for most of my career. This one may be the most challenging to try to explain. But I hope by the end of today you'll have a bit of a sense of what the concept of resilience is, how it applies to Nashville, and I hope you'll be willing to kind of join us on this resilience journey going forward. This is certainly the first and not the last time you'll hear about this concept, and we're going to need your help, and particularly the Commission's help going forward with the work that's ahead of us. But I think you'll see how it wraps into a lot of the work you are doing and others are doing. So really quickly, the history of this office and this work we'll get into, but an interesting idea and nexus around this concept is to look at kind of our biggest resilience challenge in the physical environment as well as the personal and environment, and that was the 2010 flood. And basically, when a flood happens or when a massive community event happens, the city's resources are pulled together in a very rapid and very kind of command structure sort of way. And it's an interesting dynamic to look at how when we have those acute and immediate events, we respond in one way, and then when we have long-term kind of challenging social and community issues on the long run, it's not quite as quick, it's not quite as precise, and so that kind of framework of what happens in a disaster is an interesting model and an interesting way of looking at going forward. And so that's kind of the context I would have you look at today. Fortunately, I think we are going into the next like 2, 3, 4 days where we're not going to see a massive resilience challenge here in Davidson County, but clearly what Florida is going through and what Houston just went through and is about to is continuing to go through with their long-term recovery are definitely resilience challenges. So what is this concept of urban resilience? And the actual definition is very much the capacities of individuals, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems to survive, adapt, and grow no matter what kinds of chronic stresses and acute shocks they experience. The reason there is this international movement around urban resilience is this statistic that we are seeing more and more people drawn to cities, 1.4 million every week, and that within the next time horizon, we're going to see 70% of the world's population living in cities. The resilience concept that we would like to talk to you about is maintaining essential functions while we have threats to both that have come from acute shocks and from chronic stresses. So this is a flooding event in Mandalay, Myanmar on the left-hand side, which is certainly our highest risk as a community. In Nashville is river and stream and flooding, as we saw a couple weeks ago from the remnants of Harvey. But at the same time, chronic stresses are a major factor in any 21st century city. And so on the left, you've got an abandoned steel mill in Pittsburgh, PA. And as you'll hear as we go forward around Nashville's challenges, certainly affordable housing, educational quality, and racial and economic inequity are similar challenges for us here in Nashville. Sudden shocks or accumulating stresses can lead to social breakdown, physical collapse, or economic decline. And a lot of what we are talking about with this concept is how to be prepared as an entire city to bounce back after or during these longer term shocks and stresses and bounce back into a better position. At the same time, it's critical that we talk about inequity and we talk about social cohesion. And we like this graphic because you can see Sao Paulo, Brazil, but you can see, the very fancy and very shaped. I mean, this is all in one place. Condos and play area and pool on the right-hand side of the middle, and then right up against that are shacks and shanties and temporary housing. You can go to North Nashville and sit and see the dividing line that Interstate 40 created between parts of Bordeaux and parts of North Nashville and Sylvan Heights, and see similar things here locally. So our city resilience strategy must focus on ways to fully include all residents. And so we've got to walk that talk as we do our strategy work, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like and means from a Nashville perspective, but that's where your engagement and involvement are so critical. Last little graphic. But in the best case scenarios, your city's chugging along, you have a shock or a stress occur, and you want to be able to be in a position to bounce back and transform on that higher growth curve as opposed to down here in the jagged curve. The way I look at this slide or talk about it relating to Nashville, I think, is if your red line and then your dotted line, if that is like our kind of overall economic progress as a city, and you think about the shock being the 2010 flood, overall, this looks a lot like what happened to Nashville and what we should be very proud of. But I think if you change that line, the path of development, and look at it from the perspective of, folks in our community who have not experienced that same economic growth, or who are still struggling with wages that haven't increased, or certain parts of the community where we've not just seen that, that overall GDP growth, then that changes the dynamic a little bit of the line. So part of this concept, I think, fits very closely with Mayor Berry's intention and goals around making sure that our economic prosperity go to the spreads all the way to the county line, and also is absolutely inclusive of as many people as possible. But one other thing, I'm going to turn it over to Ann to take the next couple of slides, but the one other thing I would mention, and Phyllis's words and your conversation kind of put this back in my head, which is also there's a concept of kind of personal resilience. And I have no better example that I've seen in the last 6 months than our boss, and watching Mayor Berry kind of go through unspeakable tragedy in her own life with Max's passing, and then can be able to continue and bounce back and be so transparent and continue to lead. It's a remarkable thing to participate in and behold. But that ability, you think about what it takes to be able to be emotionally, physically resilient in our lives, and certainly the community, the network of supports, family, financial resources, all of those things are critical for somebody to be able to be personally resilient. And so that also fits, I think, a lot into the work you all do, but the emerging work that's happening across our city around adverse childhood experiences, and around what are the things that create conditions of poverty and inequality. So I think one of the things Nashville brings to this international conversation is a real interest and focus on the person and the person's ability to be resilient as well. So I'm going to let Ann take the next few slides.
So Eric was kidding a little bit ago when he said this was the last graphic. We have plenty more to share. So this concept of resilience, as Eric mentioned, you can think about it from the personal psychological level. You can also think about it from a climate lens, which is what we hear from a lot of folks. And we also hear plenty of other examples of resilience across Nashville. What we are trying to shift towards thinking about for Nashville is this holistic approach to resilience. So we actually are supported through a grant from the Rockefeller Foundation through a program called 100 Resilient Cities. They have provided us with this great tool called the City Resilience Framework that we'll be using over the next couple months as we start to dive deep into some of Nashville's resilience challenges and opportunities. So breaking down resilience into leadership and strategy, health and well-being, infrastructure and environment, and economy and society. So those are the 4 sections of the framework. But another graphic. We can take it all the way, take it even further, to break down resilience into these drivers and sub-drivers of each of those 4 quadrants. So if you look at economy and society, and you look at how we foster economic prosperity, ensure social stability, security and justice, and promote cohesive and engaged communities, that's just one of those quadrants. And then it breaks it down even further to things that I can't read right now. But
I'm glad you said that because I'm here.
yeah, we've got to get a higher resolution image. But and this was actually just a snapshot from an event we held in March. So you'll see where the red dots show where some of our weaknesses are, and then the green dots where some of our strengths are. But again, interpreting what Nashville's resilience is depends on who's in the room. And we'll get into a little more into our community engagement work going ahead, and also what that event back in March was. All right, I'll hand it back over to Eric.
So the other thing that we're thrilled about, y'all are the first kind of metro entity that have come along and said, hey, we really want to learn about and talk about resilience. So you get your first at this presentation, so bear with us. But thank you. I mean, I think that actually means a great deal. So just, you know, the best example, again, that we have is kind of the case study of 2010, May 1st and 2nd. And, you know, the immense impact that that flooding event had on Nashville. And again, you know, river rise and flooding events like this caused an enormous amount of disruption and pain across the county, but across the state as well. And you know, for those of you that were not here or did not live through it, we had 11,000 properties damaged or destroyed, significant amount, $120 million in public infrastructure. You know, we were within a few feet and a few hours of losing our main freshwater drinking source because our first plant had gone down and our second one was very, very close to flooding and losing all its material. So we were very close to significant impact of not having drinking water going forward. So, you know, we were in a lot of ways prepared for that event, but in a lot of ways we were caught off guard. And been a lot of changes related to the Army Corps of Engineers and the Weather Service in terms of notification today, and you know, during the remnants of Harvey, we had updates from the Corps of Engineers hourly. We have NWS briefings daily now, so we have a much greater. You know, when Harvey occurred, the Corps of Engineers 2 days ahead of time started just letting the waters go from Old Hickory Dam and Percy Priest Dam. So a lot greater level of coordination and communication. Our levee at Metro Center worked as it was designed, but the pumping station could not maintain those levels. And we were very, very close there also to having the levee breached. And then a lot, we recognized, and it really brought home a lot of the vulnerabilities in the community around flooding. And some of that work we've identified and have continued to work on in kind of ways that not everybody sees. So, you know, our response was largely very solid. We pulled together, this gives you a sense of all the different things that happen. The one piece I would, you know, kind of point to was the remarkable work that took place around going beyond just FEMA and Small Business Administration to help folks with their housing repairs, and that public-private partnership with the Housing Fund. Really a story I don't think that was very well told of an incredibly rapid response in the face of a lot of bureaucracy, et cetera, to get that moving. Nashville did come together, and there were really a lot of great things did happen in that process. However, any disaster, any opportunity like that gives us a chance to look forward and to be reflective. So, thorough assessment of our services during emergencies for federal and local agencies. We realized that, FEMA and others don't provide for a lot of thought around case management services for folks. Mental health issues, long-term human impact issues are not widely addressed. And the other thing that a disaster does is it exacerbates and lays bare the social inequality that was there before it all started. So the community that's well insured and well resourced can bounce back a heck of a lot faster than folks that lived up on West Hamilton or that lived in parts of Bellevue or in Pennington Bend. So again, Nashville, really resourceful and flexible. Hands-on Nashville commitment, the 30,000 volunteers, $14 million raised. I mean, all of this stuff was extraordinarily impressive as a city. But we also learned that we can do better. And so what we did coming out of that was a great deal more than I think we've actually talked about. And so we do have a unified flood protection plan that is more than just an unbuilt flood wall downtown. And we can talk about the unbuilt flood wall downtown, but we also did we have a much better series of early warning signs. We've used technology to help with some of that. We've bought out 342 properties, which is a remarkable thing to help people become whole and get them out of the floodplain and the floodway. We have more to do in that area, and Mayor Barry's committed to looking at that going forward. The interesting thing about home buyouts is you don't have to take it. And so, some of the experiences that folks had a couple weeks ago in some of the areas that were flooded out are folks that did not want to leave their home and did not want to sell. And that's a nature of resilience. Maybe after 3 or 4 floods, they will decide to do something different. I heard a guy on the radio say, "I'm just going to go buy a boat." So that's part of it. But I think the other thing is, as we do infrastructure work, as we do stormwater work, as we do all of this, sidewalks, transportation, transit, as we go forward, I mean, the resilience lens says, let's do that in a way that affords all equal access and opportunity. And so that's easy for me to stand up here and say. Making that happen as we go forward with, administration, 40-member council, private industry, public interests is going to be our challenge. And that's the challenge of a 21st century city, is how do you apply a resilience lens to really everything that you do. So Ann's going to talk a little bit about the Agenda-Setting Workshop. We held it March 1st. This grant was awarded last year and took a little while to get started. We had 130 people come together at Second Harvest on March 1st, and it kind of gives a snapshot of resilience in Nashville, and that's the 4-page document you've got in front of you too.
As Eric mentioned, on March 1st, we held our agenda setting workshop. This was just to be a kickoff example of engagement for us. It was not necessarily to say, okay, this is what resilience is about, and that's it, and we're going to move forward just with this. So it was just a snapshot. Folks that were in the room were community leaders from across sectors in Nashville, and was a long day of exercises facilitated by some of our friends at 100 Resilient Cities. Actually that morning we had a tornado event, and for some reason, that did not even affect our attendance. We had a packed room. But anyway, so some of the things that came out of the agenda setting workshop, we looked at some of Nashville's perceived shocks and those acute events as well as those slower moving disasters or chronic stresses. And then we also looked at some of the strengths and weaknesses according to the CRF, which I'll show in a bit, that wheel that is daunting. So the acute shocks that we talked a lot about, rainfall, flooding, severe storms and tornadoes, extreme temperatures, extreme heat, and extreme cold, which we know disproportionately affect vulnerable populations, and especially people experiencing homelessness. And cyber attacks, which came up and was an interesting one that we hadn't thought as much about yet. So, and then longer term stresses that we talked about were transportation access, affordable housing access, growing poverty and inequality, and access to high quality education. And then this goes back to that wheel that we looked at earlier. Some of some of Nashville's areas of strengths and places where we could improve that were identified on March 1st. Areas of strength being that we have a booming economy right now, but we know that that's not necessarily hitting all neighborhoods and all communities. We've got pretty strong leadership and effective management, and no, that was not just the mayor's office folks with our bias of our boss, but that we foster long-term and integrated planning. We've got a ton of great work that has happened over the last couple of years through Nashville Next and a handful of other plans for the city. And we generally are good at promoting cohesive and engaged communities. But at the same time, have a lot more work to do in supporting livelihoods and employment. That specifically was around access to capital for small businesses, and ensuring that access to employment is equitable across the city. That we, I think that note around providing reliable communication and mobility had a lot more to do with access to transportation than communication. Generally, we find that the city is communicating well in the midst of our challenges, and that we also can empower a broader range of stakeholders. And that was definitely something that came up during the March 1st event was who's in the room? Well, it's all the folks that you see at a lot of events across town. Who are the folks that are not in the room that need to be at that table?
Great. So what do we do with this going forward? And so that's our that's the challenge that we have been placed. It's been placed in front of us, and we wanted to kind of quickly just give you a sense of where we are. So this process is we're in the last cohort of the 100 resilient cities, and if you're interested in kind of what a resilient strategy looks like, Boston is the latest U.S. city to have released a resilience strategy. So I would encourage you to look at just Google Boston resilience. Other U.S. cities that are that have strategies are New Orleans, New York, Norfolk, and a handful of others. Boston's strategy is really interesting because it very explicitly focuses on combating racism as the core of what Boston needs to do going forward to be a more resilient city. But so, what we have got in front of us is a pretty prescribed process. And so we're kind of here between the green and the turquoise area. And really for the next 4 to 6 months, we're in kind of an investigative deep dive of what are Nashville's resilient strengths and what are our areas of opportunity. And so out of that will come a pretty comprehensive resilience kind of bottom line for what are our challenges and what are we doing quite well, and that would lead to phase 2, which is where we kind of deep dive into, okay, what are the 4 or 5 strategy elements that a resilient strategy for Nashville should have, and then right at the beginning of this black area is where we release a strategy and move into implementation. Now, this is where I say, this is not Nashville Next 2.0. This is not to replace or do anything different around the numerous master plans and planning processes that Nashville has done and have done. All of those things go into the blender, really, in the next couple of months and get considered. And so what we see coming out of this is really this one just kills me, Ann. Like every time we use it, I'm like, sorry. So this gives you the same thing of what I was just describing, but it scares me when I look at it. But it really does give us an opportunity to highlight actionable strategies going forward. And when I say actionable, I mean looking at things like our future capital plans, future building plans, looking at the policy elements. I mean, a lot of the things we've talked about here also have some policy considerations in them. So this is really our chance to have that kind of operating strategy around these resilience elements going forward. So we're in the midst right now of a lot of introductory meetings and just talking with folks about this concept and listening a lot and continuing to listen. We will have an internal kind of Metro working team of doers to help us, folks from planning, folks from finance as well to help us. So we do this internal strategy launch next week, which is really kind of getting us started on this 100 RC process. And then working through both our own work plan, a stakeholder engagement plan, and a communications plan going forward. We will have a community-oriented steering committee that we haven't even started thinking about yet, but will be. And this leads to, and when I said there was kind of that baseline that we're heading towards for December, January, this preliminary resilience assessment. So this is really inside baseball stuff, but we wanted you guys to have well, sorry, that's the end of it. Wanted you to have a real kind of sense of where we are starting off. I will say stakeholder engagement and communications are two areas we will definitely want your input and assistance in. At this moment, we don't exactly know what that's going to shape up and look like. Our druthers, our predisposition is that we would do a lot more of listening and going to existing groups as opposed to holding, yet another series of community meetings that, may have 5 people at them. We kind of like to do something that's really embedded into what people are concerned about and make resilience more so apply to them. We will not do this show, obviously, with community stakeholders, but we did want to give you all a real sense and deep dive into this process, because as we see it so far, we think it will go well and be useful for Nashville, but we're also going to adapt it to Nashville going forward. So do you have anything else to add? And we'll wrap up and take what I'm sure are going to be multiple questions. Yes, sir.
I guess I'm looking for maybe some sort of when you talked about shock and stress, but then what you described wound up being a major emergency. And so where is the line differentiation? Who decides what is a major shock? How does that work? And then you talked about all the other people involved. So who's in charge here? When you have these things, I mean, your office, how are you involved in those kinds of things?
Yep.
But the big thing right now is, how do you decide what qualifies for your attention, I guess?
That's an excellent question that we're living and learning day in and day out. So when, the remnants of Harvey came through a couple weeks ago, we use that just in our office and our work as a learning experience and tried to figure out, so OEM, fire, our first responders have that covered. I mean, they are top-notch professionals. An example, though, is one of the areas that got hit very hard was Lewis Street, which is a street kind of south of downtown. Browns Creek runs behind it. Turns out there's the people that were evacuated, they're about 4 feet up in their apartment buildings, were affordable housing units, Urban Housing Solutions, who we work with on the housing side of things. Again, it's all connected. So they are not a huge, property management company that's used to figuring all that out. So we didn't expect to be thrown into that response because it wasn't a massive community-wide shock. However, 30 displaced families at Lewis Street is something that, we had to kind of decide on the fly. And so I think a lot of our responsibility is to take, those kinds of impacts and talk about them, talk about it from a policy perspective. I mean, if our only place for affordable housing is in floodplains and floodways, that's a policy issue. I mean, that's how they ended up where they are, is land was cheap. So it's hard right now to know exactly what's going to be in there and what's not, but I think that's the beauty of how this is designed is to bring it all into this funnel right now and work through that going forward. We don't know ultimately what the 5 areas we'll focus on in our resilience strategy are overall.
So when something like that happens, you are looking at the policy implications
Yes.
of what happens
Yes.
as compared to doing anything to solve
Correct.
the problem,
Well,
other than policy.
that's another great distinction. We are tied, and this is intended to be in the mayor's office so that we can implement also. So we're doing both. I mean, we're also informing her and briefing her about what the needs are and issues are on the ground so that hopefully we're improving the whole system. So it's really both.
Commissioner Poster, Commissioner Rodriguez, and Commissioner Mann. Commissioner Poster.
It's fascinating. You mentioned the chronic stresses, and affordable housing, education, racial inequality, justice, and there's certainly things that fit under each of those. And then you described our reaction to the flood in terms of command center and central control. As we move forward in developing ourselves as a resilient city, do you see command controls in each of these chronic areas where decisions can be made? And I'm trying, it's hard for me to picture how this is going to flesh out on the chronic side. The emergency side, we got to step up and get us organized and get the streets cleaned and get people how these, as you said, that these were more difficult. Do you have a picture for how that might work in your mind? How other cities might be doing that? Do they have command centrals on affordable housing, on racial inequality, on criminal justice?
I think it's that's a really good question also. My take is that it's about using the model of the disaster and using the things that it stirs up to make those things more of a community and a governmental priority. So I would not say the goal ultimately is command structure necessarily. It's to create more of a community backbone and infrastructure to deal with those issues, whether it's government, whether it's nonprofit, or whether it's business.
It's hard. It's hard
It
work.
is. It's huge.
I'm just trying to get my
It's
arms
huge.
around it, and it's still so vague that it's hard. But I see the intention.
And I'm going to be I have had to keep myself intentionally vague because one thing we don't want to do is have a bias up front. I mean, if something god awful were to happen, or if we need this process to be true to what are the resilience challenges of the city. So the best thing we've got is that snapshot that's in front of you from the Agendasetting Workshop. But if we do our jobs, we will continue to evolve that into what are the real resilience challenges of Nashville. It's hard. I tip into implementation. That's my background and perspective. So this next 4 or 5 months is really uncomfortable for me.
So as we move to Commissioner
Sorry.
Rodriguez, and I'm watching the clock, it sounds like one of the most important things we can do, our framing question is how can we help do the work together, is to ask these questions. So let's make
Absolutely.
sure we have the time for all the commissioners to get their questions out. We may not hear the answers that we'd like to hear in detail because we don't have time.
and the other
But I want to
thing-
make sure that we get all the questions.
We may have pressure today on time, but the great thing about our work going forward is we don't have time pressure. So we will sit down and talk. I mean, this is that phase where we do want to hear all voices. I mean, we'll take the time to talk with you about it as we go forward. Sorry.
Thank you.
My question, and it kind of dovetails into what Avi was asking. I was just trying to get an understanding, and you've explained a little bit better about a day in the life of the CRO and the office. I mean, so when they're absent an emergency or emergent situation, so your main task, your priorities are
Yeah.
what?
So that's a fantastic question, too. So the last month has been to transition from my previous positions, and that's been great because, a lot of what changed, we evolved out of this process. We had to create a CRO. I was doing the Office of Economic Opportunity Empowerment. We elevated the affordable housing function there to its own office. So Adrian Harris and Morgan Mansa, who ran our housing operation, still do, but they're an Office of Housing within the mayor's office. A lot of that work before was humming along great. I didn't necessarily need my attention and help. So going forward, though, I'm on our senior team. We're working on a series of kind of internal strategic performance management and goal setting for the city itself that we're working towards being able to roll those out. But a lot of that work, so related to, again, in some ways, it's not that hard related to the actual individual emergencies. We have a lot of really good things happening at the fire department, at OEM, with our police department in terms of disaster response. Are those well communicated and connected across the silos? No. And so there is a function of this work that is a lot of just internal improvement in Metro around silo busting and trying to create more of, just as we've sat and talked with folks, we'll hear about an initiative that's already happening at the health department that, that really does connect to the capital improvements budget work that the Planning Commission is doing. So it's an interesting, it's not that freelance, but there is a whole element of let's make sure that the governmental functions are connected and talking. And that is one thing that happens in a disaster. The mayor's goes up on the hill over by Belmont, all the department heads are right there. I mean, that piece of it's not great because you don't want to be in that situation. But if you need the sheriff's office to do something, if you need public works to do something, that function is a really interesting thing because it does put everybody there on notice and working as a team. And so part of this effort is, can we get Metro to work more in that spirit, day in and day out on these bigger issues?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Marcella.
My question was, for someone who wants to be involved in the process, how do they connect and make that known?
So right now, it's just connecting with Ann, connecting with me. As we go forward, we will have opportunities again, for community engagement and community input that will be really clear about where those are and when they're happening. And, I think there is an opportunity with the steering committee, particularly for community leaders that want to be involved from the outside. We will know a lot more of these things after Monday and Tuesday of next week when we kind of get our full indoctrination from our national partners.
We have a place online on the mayor's website.
Oh,
Where you
yeah.
can sign up
Yeah.
for sign up to get in touch with us and we'll push on our email.
Thank you.
So the way that I understand it so far, it's to me sort of a best practices on how to implement in different scenarios, right? As a communications person, and obviously as a Latina, I want to make sure that your communications plan includes the undocumented and their fears. one of the biggest concerns that we heard out of Harvey in Houston were that undocumented immigrants not leaving their homes, not alerting the police so they would not get deported. And that's something that we definitely need to be communicating with all the departments, that once something like this happens, God forbid, or anything, any crisis, that is in place as one of your best practices bullet points.
That's exactly the kind of input and I mean, yeah. So I sent an announcement out to the council this weekend, kind of an update, and that issue was raised back to me around, do we translate those announcements?
Yes.
And I'm figuring that out today.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. I mean, that's what we're here for.
And I appreciate you saying you're coming to us to listen, because especially with the Latinos, they don't like going to community groups and community meetings. And so going to Turk and Conexión, the Hispanic Family Foundation, the Tennessee Latin American Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, so that we get the word out, I think it's the perfect way to do it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I don't even know if I have a question so much as I'm just sort of thinking about these things. So it seems to me that the stresses, well, first of all, they're obviously intertwined, and somebody who's struggling with housing is struggling with all of these other sorts of inequities of poverty and quality education and transportation issues. So they're all connected. But it also seems to me that the stressor stuff is impacting those who are already underserved. And so that's why it's a chronic stress. That's why it's continuing, versus the top shocks could potentially hit any grouping, including, as you said, that with the most recent issues, it also then hit those that are probably underserved and suffering from these other stresses. So I guess, I mean, again, I'm not even sure I have a question. I'm just trying to work through, because it keeps seeming to come up that, like, we're good at and we kind of know and are able and come together to deal with the top shocks, which not only are going to impact those that are underserved, but those that are already, resource equipped in many areas. So I guess I mean, I'm having a hard time seeing where and in what way there can be implementation that's going to get at these stresses. And I haven't seen anything, or nobody said anything that seems like an actual action that will do something.
Right. And so that is again, that's where I'm struggling with you. So you're not alone. Having the resilience framework, that resilience assessment, I would say we don't have a great catalog right now of everything even that we are doing.
Okay.
And so part of this is, and this is where I am trying to say to my Metro colleagues and counterparts, some of this is saying, oh my gosh, we're doing this one great thing and we aren't necessarily talking about it. I mean, I've learned things about our countywide flood protection plan that I didn't even know we'd done, and I was a council member. So, so part of it is just having a catalog of what all is happening, and then what from that we either need to elevate or what gaps do we need to fill. And that's, it's a hard thing because none of us want to sit down and do another plan or we don't want to go into that too much of an academic exercise. Right. I think part of this, though, with climate change happening, I mean, we talk about our population growth. One of our big long-term issues is we're going to continue to see population growth because people are going to continue to move here from Miami and Houston and the coasts. I mean, that's going to happen. So all of this stuff is shifting, and so it's the right time to do that inventory. In 18 months, if there's not some implementation that's happened, or we aren't tipping it into these are things we need to implement going forward, then that's on us. So. Okay. I did not mention, I wanted to mention just two other things while I'm here and in front of you all around these topics. I mean, one of those kind of, that was announced this past weekend, but that is going forward, I think, and that, clearly is one of these issues that's embedded is the nature of public transportation and the ability to get around in this community and town. So you are going to start seeing, you are already seeing the announcement of a campaign and a good deal of work going towards how do we fund such a network going forward. I will leave that with you all to take forward and to learn about. The other, though, is the importance of dialogue and engagement, just like we've talked about. And so a year ago. Right now, the mayor's office conducted the Real Dialogue. I'm pleased to say, hopefully in the next day, or if it may already be online now, we are putting up a compilation of the work that took place and the feedback, the 644 items that were raised by the public at those dialogues. And so that should be up on the mayor's office site, if not tonight, tomorrow, I think. So we want to recognize that to you all because you played such a key role in that dialogue, continue to play such a key role in this dialogue in the community. And it's one thing I wanted to make sure as an emissary of the mayor's office, I came and told you that and recognize that, because also that level of dialogue and outreach, as we've talked about, that is inclusive and gets real community voice is going to be really critical to our work going forward on resilience.
Commissioner Poster, you may have the last comment.
Just moving forward, very encouraged. The confusion for the community will be moving forward, the terminology we frame.
Yep.
No one's going to get their hands around resiliency as a concept. But right now, I'm actually confused as to how the office that you work in, because you're the same people. So who's going to be in charge of what? What are we calling it? How can we name it so that people know who they're calling is who's going to be in charge? Because the issues for the people out there that I'm hearing from are the ones you named for sure, but other issues related to criminal justice and inclusionary housing.
So we can, maybe offline we can go through our mayor's office org chart, but it's important also to recognize that it's not just the mayor's office. Right. Like, departments are doing departments are doing some of the hardest work right now on racial equity. It's, what the mayor's office does, is we need to put oomph behind what the departments are doing. But we can talk through that. In essence, we're all doing the same kind of stuff. We have economic inclusion, the Financial Empowerment Center work is with us and John Murphy in our office. But Ashford Hughes is still doing economic, the workforce development and economic inclusion, has added racial equity work, and he's down in the ECD office, and then Adrian, and so in essence, we're still doing the work. It's we just arranged the chairs a little bit differently, but I would be happy to talk to you about that.
So in closing, I want to thank you so much for your presentation. You answered many of our questions, or at least helped us clarify ways in which we will continue to dialogue with you with our questions, both individually and jointly. I'm going to ask that you give us a sense of what we can do to help you going forward before I make one last point. And that is this: as I look in the gallery, we do have public visitors today, more than we usually have in the meeting, but I hope that really we have hundreds, if not thousands, because we are very grateful for the opportunity to have this meeting filmed this time and for it to be available. So I want to make sure that in your closing remarks, you make those statements to those who are with us cybernetically so that they can know where they should go and how to be engaged. Several slides earlier where you were having the colored arrows and we were talking about engagement, and you talked about the issues that came up on March 1st. What we did not see: racial equity, racial justice, concerns around policing and criminal justice and public safety. And we thank you and ask that you convey our thanks to the mayor for recognizing the work that everybody did together with Real Dialogue a year ago and with what's coming up. And also for all of us to remember that she invited us into that conversation as a direct response, a resilience response, if you will, anticipating your work and position, of the shock and chronic stress that this community felt, And we took that process as a community to go forward. And I'm also really acutely aware of that because I look over and I do have to call one name. I see Bishop Melvin Talbot seated here, a retired bishop of the United Methodist Church, member of my church, and was present with me in a community meeting yesterday where there are other stakeholders who are continuing to ask, how might we partner in the conversations of justice? What do we need to learn to go through this? Many of our visitors today are responding directly to that. So would you please just close to let these representatives from other groups know how they contact you to perhaps ensure that other agenda items who might have been pressing for persons beyond the 130 who were in the room definitely have an opportunity to have that mention going forward.
Yes.
So if you will tell us that, we will let you go.
Sure. So again, I mean, we're so thrilled to be with you today and in this setting. We will have a lot more oomph and mechanisms for you to connect and for the community members to connect going forward. I do want to say just one thing. I think we need to give our community more credit, a little bit more credit around can they grasp resilience. So Ann and I were on the Channel 5 talk show, the 50 plus, and we're talking about, we did this, we talked about, and a gentleman named Charles called, and he lived up on West Hamilton. And he gave us the up, down, left, right about how we had not, the city hadn't bounced back, we hadn't been up there, we hadn't offered to buy him out, we hadn't done all that work. Charles gets it. Charles gets resilience. We got to respond and be there and listen to Charles. Second thing, I happened to be I was asked to come, and I loved this, right after I was named to a gathering on youth violence. And it was a young man that had met me at some event. And again, we talked about these very serious issues, but at the end of it, I talked about resilience. Afterwards, this isn't going to get weird, but I'm in the bathroom, the young man comes in, and I know, right? No, it's good. And we're washing our hands, and he says, he was probably 14 or 15, and he said, I really liked what you were saying. I really liked that idea of resilience. And he basically sat there and kind of recited it right back to me. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. We need to realize that people can get this if we just plug it in the right way. So for us, as Ann said, Mayor's Office website, we have an Office of Resilience site if you want to come to us that way. I'm 615-862-6026 is how you get to me. And we want to have those dialogues and conversations, but you will hear, because we also have our colleagues within the Mayor's Office in our Office of Community Engagement, also helping with our process going forward, as well as we've pulled in some of the folks from the Planning Department that worked on Nashville Next. So we will have a great deal of structures and communication going forward. But I think if I were guessing, it would be you'll see us show up at a community or a neighborhood meeting at some point in the next 5 or 6 months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. The question is, do you have any more of the handouts to show?
I only
Okay,
gave
thank you.
20.
There we go. Thank you. So,
It's on, actually, the whole thing is online, too.
website, and we will make sure that we have a link to our website as we go forward. So, with 10 minutes left, Madam Director,
Yes,
have you a report for us?
great, rather truncated. I want to personally thank you two as well. Thank you very much for coming. And I look forward to working with you on any way that we can help you. Okay, so the director's report, as you know, generally speaking, our office divides our work, or we approach our work in 3 different ways, right? We do programs and projects, we do research policy recommendations, and we do events. In our programs and projects, if you'll recall, we did the language access study and report for Metro last year. We are working on a comprehensive language access plan and an access and inclusion toolkit for all Metro departments. It would cover both Title VI and ADA. We're now working with several members of the mayor's office, the ADA specialists in general services, and the new human resources director, Shannon Hall. We have a really solid draft, thanks to our director of policy and research, Sam Perez, that we will be able to present to the mayor's office, vet through legal and a number of other avenues, so that all departments will have a hands-on how-to for access, both language, LAP and ADA, and other avenues of access and inclusion. In our programs and projects, we have also been building a menu of options for technical assistance that we can offer to other organizations and agencies, different workshops and trainings. We have, this past month, we led a 4-hour cultural humility and implicit bias workshop for the juvenile court magistrates. We've led a number of other trainings and lectures, including several at Lipscomb, and for the Center for Nonprofit Management, and a number of others. In research and policy recommendations, we continue to work on issues related to affordable housing. As you know, I serve on the steering committee of A Voice for the Reduction of Poverty, and our main focus currently on that steering committee is affordable housing. We've also helped convene sort of an ad hoc committee of different organizations and researchers to look at evictions across the city, and starting to gather data on, what can we learn about those evictions? Is there any way to get sort of demographic data around evictions? I'm not necessarily sure at this point if that is possible, but as a committee, and sort of in us convening that committee, we're starting to gather the data to see what we can find out. I also attend and serve on the campaign to end the new Jim Crow, and in that capacity and with some other organizations, we're also looking at different research and policy recommendations related to criminal justice reform. Of particular interest and immediacy, right? And immediacy is the money bail system, and I'm hoping that we will have an educational opportunity around what money bail is, and what other options there might be for the city, and to see if we can't support as a commission a policy recommendation related to that. Our events coming up immediately is, our big one is Celebrate Nashville. It's the 21st year, is that right, Barbara?
I'm not certain.
No, I think it's the 21st year of Celebrate Nashville. Our office helps coordinate this event. It's, I don't know, upwards of 60,000 people at Centennial Park. We organize Metro Row, which is the Metro departments who want to come and interface with the community. We also coordinate the other row. What's the other one? I'm sorry, obviously I delegate this. I'm sorry? Yes, we coordinate the Global Village. Yes. Our director of operations and special projects is Mark Etherly, and he is the lead on that project. I'm also excited to say that this year we are presenting, we're the lead presenter on October 3rd, Tuesday, October 3rd at 7:30 p.m., the World Music Night at the Schermerhorn. So we're doing that in collaboration with the symphony and a few other organizations. But to be honest, I think it's a unique opportunity. I don't believe that there is any other event in town that brings together world music in the way that this event does. So I really hope that you'll all attend. Yes. And the cultural festival itself is Saturday, October 7th.
Oh, it is, okay.
If it's not, we'll be sure to pass it around. Yes. Another event that we are co-sponsoring, I'm going to ask Barbara if she wouldn't mind to share something about that event.
So Metro Human Relations Commission is co-sponsoring a musical production called Zero. And we have signed on to believing that it is actually possible to get to zero HIV transmissions by 2020. So the first production with Nashville in Harmony will be Thursday, October the 12th at the Scarab Bennett Center. And we invite you. It is free to attend, and we'd love to see you.
And if I understand right, I believe you're in the cast. Isn't that right?
So I am in the cast.
Wonderful.
And this is a topic, an issue that the commission has been concerned about for a number of years because AIDS and HIV has a disproportionate impact on communities of color. So we have worked with organizations and agencies on how we address that racial disparity. So I believe I will end just about on time.
All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Yes.
I'm sorry, including announcements, or you're going to?
Announcements.
Okay, a couple of things. One is, I think we need to look at our calendar again of holidays in the community. We did develop a calendar of religious holidays that
Did we
people
mess
should.
up Yom Kippur again?
And another city event was scheduled on an important holiday. So I think we're going to redo that. I'm going to need help from the commission in helping us project the dates of importance that people should avoid. In this case, it can't be at this point, but unfortunately, it cuts out part of our community.
And can I add to that very quickly that I think we will also want help amplifying that message, right? So we put it on our
Absolutely.
website, we have it printed, we pass it out everywhere.
And
But so having assistance in sort of amplifying the message.
2 events this week, just to put on your immediate calendars. One Thursday night, Community Nashville dinner. Our interim executive that served before Mel, Tom Negri, is one of 3 individuals being recognized that night. Pat Shea and Sheila Calloway are the other 2. Several of you have signed up already to be at that dinner. We have a nice group going. If anyone hasn't signed up, there might be more room. You need to let us know tonight, though, because it's really I think there may be some space. And then the third thing is Wednesday night at the Belcourt Theater, a movie called Birthright. Birthright doesn't take a moral position on the issue of women's rights to choose as much as it's a movie that addresses the implications on what happens to women when they're not allowed to make choice. And it's a movie that's been around the country. It's been celebrated. I'd certainly like to invite all of you to be at the Belcourt. It's at 7 o'clock Wednesday night.
Wednesday night?
Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. If anyone needs more information, you can buy your tickets now on the Belcourt Theater website. I don't know that it will fill out, especially with the weather being iffy, but I would encourage you to, after the meeting, go right up and buy your tickets.
Thank you. Other announcements? Yes.
This Saturday, I'm speaking to a group called Girls to the Moon, and I'm specifically covering the topic on bullying. And it's for girls 10 to 14 years of age. And then next time you're in your Kroger, stop at the magazine rack. There's a brand new magazine called Focus, and I'm on the cover.
I'm part of the Transit for Nashville Coalition, and so if anyone is interested in reading what the petition is, I have it right in front of me, so that if you want to sign it, you're welcome to sign it.
Other announcements? Okay, I think our executive director has one, and she'll take us out.
That's right. I have two last things. Number one, we're asking commissioners to sign in at our meetings. It's going to help Barbara with the minutes and who was in attendance and who was not. And lastly, I am really sad to make this announcement. I'm going to try not to cry for the second time during this commission meeting. But we are going to be saying goodbye to our fabulous Director of Research and Policy, Sam Perez. She has been offered a fabulous position doing education policy for the area Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited that I will get to continue to work with her as I serve on the Chamber's Report Card Committee. But I will not have her in our office anymore. So I wanted to say publicly, like, thank you very much. What is honestly, a lot of what this commission and our office has been able to accomplish in the last 2 years was in great part due to the skill set that Samantha brought. And so I'm on the hunt for Sam 2.0. But the position has been approved. I will be able to start advertising this week. Absolutely. Great.
Thank you. Sam, our thanks and best wishes. We're glad we're not losing you to the community.
Couldn't have asked for a better position and a better team to work with, so thank you for
We are going to miss you.
your support and for your welcome and for all the ways that you all have challenged me and pushed me.
Sam, you bring with you to the chamber the responsibility of carrying our vision and mission. It's a gain for the chamber to have that brought into its fold, so.
Thank you. One more.
Yeah,
Last.
one more. Tennessee United for Human Rights, Human Rights Day.
Oh, yes.
Human Rights Day. They're having an event, Peace Day. The theme is freedom of religion, what it means in today's, environment, and that's going to be at the Church of Scientology, and I'm on the panel with some other speakers.
Date and time?
Date.
September 21st at 7 to 8:30.
Thank you. We'll have enough. Thank you for your time. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.